We have all been there. A colleague misses a deadline for the third time, or a vendor completely ignores your email, and you feel that internal pressure start to build. But when you go to express that frustration in English, you realize you lack the precise words to match exactly how angry you actually are. Using the wrong vocabulary in these moments is a massive professional risk. If you use a high-intensity idiom for a minor annoyance, you look entirely irrational. Conversely, if you use a mild phrase to describe a catastrophic failure, you look weak and out of touch with the reality of the situation. Calibrating your conflict vocabulary requires a precise sense of where you land on this intensity gradient. Today, we are mapping the English language to the exact level of your internal frustration. Mastering this linguistic calibration gives you a vital tool. It allows you to assert boundaries and navigate complex office politics without ever sacrificing your professional authority. This timeline shows how native English speakers systematically change their descriptions of anger based on how much emotional pressure has built up. We break this down into 4 distinct stages. It starts with stage 1, interpersonal friction. This describes the slow, creeping buildup of annoyance that comes from repetitive behaviors or minor personality clashes. Take this illustration as our first example. If someone unintentionally irritates you just by being themselves, we say they rub you the wrong way. It is like petting a cat backward. The friction is mild, but over time, it becomes highly uncomfortable. When that annoyance pushes you to the extreme due to repetitive, intrusive actions, the vocabulary shifts. We say the person is driving you up the wall. It is an unnatural, impossible situation you just want to escape. Stage 1 vocabulary focuses heavily on these continuous external irritants. It provides the first marker on our pressure gauge, indicating that the problem is outside of you, but the pressure is starting to build inside. This diagram shows what happens when you absorb too much of that external friction. Welcome to stage 2, reaching the breaking point. Your internal patience container is completely full, and you can no longer accommodate any additional pressure. When the liquid reaches the brain, you are at your wit's end. This means total mental exhaustion. If an irritant is finally intolerable, you are fed up to the back teeth, filled to maximum capacity. And when you need to establish a definitive physical boundary against a specific behavior, you say you have had it up to here, usually accompanied by a flat hand placed directly at your neck. But what happens when that container breaches? This schematic illustrates stage 3, the mechanical failure. It is a sudden, highly visible loss of composure, exactly like an internal machine breaking down and throwing sparks. We describe this collapse in 3 specific ways. An intense, sudden flash of temper triggered by irritation is blowing a fuse. If someone reaches a peak of raw fury where they discard all professional attitude, they do their nut. And if they become so agitated they cannot even focus on their work, they go spare. Notice the exact shift in meaning. While stage 2 describes reaching your internal emotional limits, stage 3 phrases specifically describe the external collapse of your professional restraint. Looking at this matrix, we can see that not all outbursts are judged equally. Choosing the right idiom for stage 3 depends entirely on whether the reaction was justified or a complete overreaction. If a director discovers a preventable oversight, like unverified numbers printed in an investor deck, they might throw a fit. This is a visible, performative display of temper from an authority figure that we view as understandable given the real mistake. Contrast that with a developer who accuses the facilities manager of a conspiracy because the office temperature rose by 2 degrees. That is a total abandonment of rational restraint over a tiny issue. For that, we say they went off the deep end. This meter takes us to our darkest level of conflict, stage 4. This is predatory hostility. Here, reactive anger shifts into an intentional, highly focused desire for retribution. We describe this using blood idioms. If someone is determined to find a scapegoat, they are out for blood. If they want to see a specific individual suffer professional consequences, they are after someone's blood. And finally, if they are physically pacing the room, fully primed for a volatile confrontation, their blood is up. Stage 4 represents the maximum threat level, because it marks the shift from an accidental loss of control to calculated, aggressive intent. Stage 5 is the architecture of confrontation. At this level, anger becomes a strategic tool, used intentionally to reset boundaries through direct feedback. There are two main ways to deliver this feedback. An informal, lengthy verbal venting, focused purely on high volume and releasing pressure, is known as giving someone an earful. But if you need to formally reclaim your status and state an employee's failings unapologetically, you give them a piece of your mind. Sometimes the intention is chaos. Introducing information guaranteed to cause anxiety is called putting the cat among the pigeons. Or you choose the exact opposite, silence. Not on speaking terms describes a complete relationship breakdown, signaling total hostility without uttering a word. Looking at this master vocabulary list, you can see the clear progression from minor friction to full hostility. Native English speakers do not use these terms interchangeably. Achieving true fluency requires precise linguistic choices. Matching the exact idiom to the intensity of the situation ensures your communication is perfectly calibrated, no matter how high the pressure gets.